It was a late November night when I left a friend's house after a birthday party. I didn't have much to drink, said goodnight to my friend, adjusted the dash cam and pulled out the driveway. 10 minutes into my drive, I heard a siren and saw in my rear view mirror flashing red and blue lights. As I pulled over by the side of the dark, deserted road, my heart pounded in my chest like a drum in a thunderstorm. The flashing red and blue lights painted a bright glow around my car as I watched the figure of a cop approach from the shadows. With trembling hands, I rolled down my window as the officer instructed. The moment his shadow fell across my face, my body tensed. I was woman alone on a dark, deserted road. His voice was cold as he asked for my license and registration. As I handed it over, I noticed a glint of evil in his eyes. This was no ordinary stop, I thought to myself. I considered hitting the gas pedal and taking off, but I knew if I did that, he would catch up and most probably kill me, so I waited. Suddenly, and with no warning, he ordered me out of the car. "Why did you stop me?" I asked. "Just get out," he hissed. I undid my seatbelt, unlocked the door, and stepped onto the side of the road. Before I could react, he slammed me against the hood with a force that took my breath away. My mind raced with confusion and fear as his firm grip held me in place. He leaned in towards me and whispered in my ear like venom slipping from a serpent's tongue. "This is from your ex." The words echoed through the night, sending a wave of dread crashing over me. My mind raced back to memories of broken promises and bitter arguments with my ex. But nothing could prepare me for the twisted form of vengeance he was about to unleash upon me. As I stood there pinned against the cold metal of my car's hood, the world seemed to warp around me. The darkness of the night deepened, swallowing even the feeble glow of the patrol car's lights. The officer's grip tightened, his fingers digging into my flesh like claws. His face, once obscured by shadows, now loomed over me. In the dim light, I could see every twisted line etched into his features. A sense of dread gripped me as I struggled to understand what the hell was going on. What vendetta did my ex hold against me to orchestrate such a macabre scheme? My thoughts raced back to the end of my relationship, the bitter words exchanged in fits of anger and hurt. But this was beyond anything I could have imagined. The officer let go of my arm but pinned my legs with his knee. He reached into his pocket, turning his back slightly from my gaze. A smell of sulfur hit my nose and a wave of panic washed over me. With a malicious smirk, the officer produced something from his pocket, glinting in the sparse light. It was a small canister, its purpose obscured by the darkness. My heart hammered in my chest as he drew closer. "Take it," he hissed, his voice barely more than a whisper. "Take what you deserve. This is from your ex," he repeated, lifting the canister in his hand. By now I had realized what the object he took from his pocket was. The smell had warned me. Adrenaline pumped through my veins, and with a force so enormous, I freed my leg and kicked the canister from his hand. The liquid went flying through the air and landed in the officer's face. Deep guttural screams came from his throat as the canister fell to the ground. He grabbed his face and staggered backward. Fear gnawed at my insides, my heart pumping as I watched the officer's skin disappear from his face. Raw flesh and bone replaced the once firm skin. As the shadows danced around me, I realized that I was truly alone in the darkness. And in that moment, the full extent of the danger I was in became painfully clear. Tears streamed down my face as I realized the acid was meant for me. Every instinct screamed at me to run, to flee from this nightmare, but something held me in place, rooted to the spot like a deer caught in the headlights. Time seemed to stretch into an eternity as I stood there frozen in fear, staring at his face. His eyes popped from their skeletal sockets. His nose and lips were missing with only his teeth visible, and when the officer's skeletal grin widened, I emptied my guts on the side of the road. With a sudden swift motion, I yanked my car door, turned the ignition, and as my tail lights disappeared into the darkness, I dialed 911.